Frank and I are without adult supervision tonight because Gabby had something she had to do this evening. So it's just he and I in the studio this evening, and we brought BB guns and wrist rockets and all kinds of stuff. And whoever has this seat afterwards, well, check before you sit. You never know what kind of cushion will be waiting for you. All of God's children are endowed with extraordinary purpose and ability. I'm on a quest to help as many as possible in fully realizing their divinely inspired potential. Disposing a false narrative and embracing genuineness inspires clarity of purpose. My role is to help overcome self imposed limitations in realizing one's spiritual potential. And, folks, I want to tell you about my favorite pharmacy in the city of Claremont, and it just happens to be called Claremont Pharmacy. It is owned by Dr. Nikki Ho, and she is just the neatest lady in the world. She is very good with prescriptions, and the whole staff there, whether it's Michelle, whether it's Dr. Martin, I'm in good hands. And I've never felt so safe with my medications. Now, I've been using them for about 3 years now, so this isn't a sudden thing. I just really, because I care so much about you as my listeners, I want you to have a really safe place to go where your needs are actually taken care of. And so that's Claremont Pharmacy in the city of Claremont. And while you're in the town, since you'll probably be hungry, why don't you go to my favorite eatery, Kickback Jack's, also known as BC Cafe. It's on the corner of Indian Hill Boulevard in San Jose. It's just off the 10 freeway. They have outdoor seating. Friends, this is good food and at a good price. And the portions are incredible. You want to know what Gargantua looks like? This was where Gargantua was born. And then they become a sea monster. And yes, that was a play on words. That's pretty good. I feel like playing tonight. So, definitely go there. And one more thing I want to tell you about. Look, I know that we're all trying to get good information these days, and we want people who are not hacks. We want people who give us straight information. So I want to tell you about my friend Glenn Kirshner and his YouTube page called Justice Matters. Give you a little back, and let me start by saying this is not a paid advertisement. I'm giving this to you because I'm so impressed with my friend and what he's doing, and how straight the information is, because there's so many talking heads out there that just do propaganda. You don't get that with Glenn Kirshner. He was a federal prosecutor for 30 years. He spent 6.5 years in the United States Army as a JAG prosecutor, that's a JAG lawyer, Judge Advocate General. I was in the Army at one time. I strength G know what that is. But he's a good guy. And like me, if it's not fact, he won't say it. You trust me because first I research it, then I fact check it, then I say it. And where I may not always be 100%, I fact check to the best of my ability. And if I get something wrong, I come back and I tell you, you know what, I misunderstood. Glenn Kirshner's that way. You can definitely trust this man. I trust him. One last thing before I bring our wonderful guest in tonight, and that's what we have to do every week, especially now that nothing's being done at all about it at the moment, and that's the COVID numbers. Currently, right before going on air, now my numbers I get from Johns Hopkins University, so this is not political numbers. This is straight medical numbers from Johns Hopkins Medical University. The number of confirmed cases, confirmed, mind you, there's more out there, 10,546,706. That's just confirmed. That's just cases in America. And bow your head with me as I give you this number. Confirmed deaths from COVID, 242,622. I know you hear a little tear in my voice, and this is going to be a hard holiday for a lot of families who have empty chairs. And so I hope we could put differences aside and join together in kindness with these people who are hurting and should be hurting. And if some of you families are listening tonight, I love you and I'm sorry for your pain. I wish somehow I could take it from you, but I know I don't. But please, no, I can't, but please know I do genuinely care. Now, speaking of caring, I want to introduce our guest this evening. He's a voice you're very familiar with. He's one of my favorite people to ever have on here, and because he does give straight information as well. And that's Dr. John Smith, who is an author. He is also a college professor as well as a psychotherapist. And he has a wonderful book called The Authentic Man, A Guide to Happiness and Purpose. And boys and girls, I've read this book a few times. I've mentioned it to counseling clients of mine that this is a must-see thing. I've done workshops with Dr. Smith. Look, the man's the real deal, and it's an honor to have him. So, Dr. Smith, thanks for being on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me back again, Dr. John, Father John. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
It's okay. I have either
How
title.
Are you?
I'm well. And that's how I know where I am. If I'm in my counseling practice as Dr. John, if I'm doing a service as Father John. And
that's good. Well, you just have to wear both hats sometimes.
Yeah, and the third hat with Gabby. Yes, dear.
Yes, exactly.
But she's not here tonight, so that's why I'm so bad.
Yeah, I was hearing that you guys are on your own. I'm that's kind of scary.
Yep. First BB gun wins. So it's yeah. But anyhow, reason that we had you come, you were here a couple weeks ago, and we talked that we wanted to have you back tonight due to the fact that people are experiencing, and we knew they would, emotional hangovers. Now, for those of you listening that don't know what an emotional hangover is, it's almost like a drunk hangover where you're so sick and so wounded that it's hard to get over what you're feeling, and you want to feel good, but you're up and down, and you find yourself irritated without knowing why you're irritated. Mm-hmm. And then the peace comes a little bit, and then something happens and you get triggered. This has been the most stressful election cycle I can remember. And I'm not exactly a young man, and I'm noticing this with people that I'm talking to, because I'm getting more crisis calls, I'm sure you are too, of people that on Saturday were elated, and now by Monday or Tuesday, the depression hit, and the emotional exhaustion. So, what would you like to comment on this? Now,
oh my gosh!
Now I stirred the pot up.
Well, you just described me to a T. So I'm going through it, and I imagine to some extent you are going through it. So
yes.
It isn't. If I just want to say to everybody who's listening, if you are experiencing it, basically that's the new normal right now. Between what we're dealing with COVID, what we're dealing with politically with the election, and where the country's going, and who's ahead and who's not, and who's suing who, and oh my gosh, it's if I were able to distance myself from it and look at it, it would be sort of an interesting suspense movie. But
yes.
Since I'm in the middle of it, experiencing it, and it's affecting me and the people that I love and my friends and everyone, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I have been, and I'm guessing most of the people listening have been, in a state of emergency. We call it fight or flight. Mm-hmm. When there's an emergency, when there's a crisis, when there's something happening that doesn't always have to be life threatening, but let's just use when there's something life threatening or something that is threatening to our well-being, that puts us in a state of emergency. We call that fight or flight. That's basically anger and fear. And when we get into that state of emergency, what happens to us physically is really important to understand. Our bodies become supercharged with energy because of all of the chemicals that are being released into our system to help prepare us for this emergency, either to fight off the threat or to flee and run from the threat. So all of the energy that we would normally have in reserve for healing, maintenance, and repair is all being taken from those places like digestion and healing and all of the stuff that would normally do. It's being diverted into supercharged energy and going to our extremities, making us stronger, and all kinds of stuff is getting released into our body. One of the ones I think we talked about a couple of weeks ago was the chemical cortisol.
Right.
which is the stress hormone. And normally that's something that when we're under stress, it gets released, then it gets reabsorbed after the crisis is over, and we go back to normal. And for the most part, unless it's chronic, we don't have any long-term effects. I'm really concerned for myself as well that the time that I've been under stress, and some of us have been under stress for a good chunk of our lives,
Yes.
but the time that I've been under stress, I don't have any idea of what that's doing to my immune system, to other vital areas, because I'm too busy on this, what we just described, this up and down roller coaster. One day I kind of breathe a sigh of relief, and then I see something which probably isn't a good idea, but I'm addicted to reading stuff on Facebook and the news and what's happening, and I'm sure that's intended by the people that are producing the news, so they keep people watching. But I don't know. I'm kind of rambling here a bit, but it just really upsets me about what's happening, and I'm worried about the people who, like me, are under chronic stress. They're going to experience even greater anxiety, greater depression, all of these things that, we're in the business to help people get over. But I just see a line forming that's kind of endless at the moment.
Well, I want to go back to something you said that I think is quite prophetic. When you talk about the fight or flight in case of losing our life, well, in a way that does apply here in the fact that many people have the sense of losing who they are and their identity, no matter what side they voted for. The fear is up because there is a sense of survival or loss of survival, whether you're worried about COVID, where you're worried about democracy, where you're worried about relatives that you no longer speak with because of the great divide that's taken place. And we're going into the holidays, and what's safe, what's not safe. People are having to make different plans just to be safe. So I think you're absolutely right. That's all in there. It doesn't mean we have to die physically, but we feel our essence of who we are dying.
Yes. Well, I guess that's a good way to look at it. It's kind of a spiritual death going on right now.
Yes. And speaking of spiritual death, Frank is looking at me through the glass like we better go to our first commercial. Otherwise,
it couldn't be already. Okay.
Yeah, otherwise it'll be my show death. So we'll be back in 90 seconds. You're listening to Viewpoint with Father John.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org, www.4pfp as in personal funeral planning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran-owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, K292FQ Riverside, and K293CF Moreno Valley.
It's not just a home or a car. It's the 5 hours you spend in the kitchen mastering your epic wing recipe and the 3-hour family road trip to the tailgate party. While other insurance companies just see them as bundles or combos, State Farm agent Joe Amlani sees your home and car as the time and memories you put into them. Joe understands what your things really mean to you, and he's here to help you give them the protection that they deserve. Call State Farm agent Joe Amlani in Redlands for your home and auto insurance today.
And welcome back. You are tuned to KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or on the World Wide Web at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John. I am your host, Father John Reed. Quick shout out to the best sound engineer in the business, which of course is Mr. Frank back here, who is looking all over. And he's very good with his N95 mask. And can you get to the microphone?
I got it.
You got it. I knew you could do it. Yeah. How are you tonight, my friend?
I am super happy because I have a new niece
Yes.
who I can't meet yet because COVID's, obviously making hospital stays a little more complicated. But she doesn't have COVID. I'm just saying the COVID situation makes it harder to visit people. But
you need to officially welcome her into the world on this show.
yes, welcome Miss Eloise Lee Caldwell.
And the young lady, we are going to be saying prayers for your health and for your safety and for a nice long life filled with love, joy, peace, and prosperity.
Exactly.
All right.
Very happy.
And again, my guest this evening is no other than the good doctor, Dr. John Smith, author, professor, psychotherapist, and all-around good guy. And we're talking about this idea of emotional hangover following this election season. And again, I want to clarify, it doesn't matter who you voted for. Everyone's feeling this. And I think
quite literally, Father, it is a physical hangover because of these chemicals that are being constantly produced by the body, and then they sort of start to get reabsorbed, and then they're back out again. And I think our body is telling us, stop.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And the fact that it's continually being stirred up because we can't get that cathartic experience of, once, we know that one won this election and one won't concede.
Right.
And so it takes away that cathartic feeling we have when we get to switch from one administration to the other. Instead, it's a constant, acid reflux experience, because every time it starts to look like it's going to settle down, there's that acid in the esophagus again from tension.
I'm reminded that tomorrow is Friday the 13th.
Yes.
And I was thinking about the movie Friday the 13th, all versions of them. And that's exactly how I feel. Jason has jumped out many times, and I kind of know he's there, but I never know when he's going to jump out. And just when I think it's safe and I let my guard down, here he comes again.
Thanks.
And that's kind of how I've been feeling. It's like I never know when he's going to jump out next. I can't really relax because I know he's there. I know he's coming. When's he going to jump out next? When's it over?
Thanks for that. Being I have a funeral tomorrow, I'm taken to the cemetery. My friend.
Just a little reminder, Father.
Yes. If I see any hockey mask, I know to run like heck.
Go the other way. Yes.
That's right. Yes. Take contrary action. Yes. I'll be calling you for terror therapy tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll be available all day on call.
Yeah. So I'm glad you also mentioned the physical with the physical hangover, because I'm finding a lot of people are suffering from stomach aches, sore throats. They're not related to a cold or a flu, just they wake up with sort of a scratchy throat, which I put in the category of feeling like you're losing your voice and all of this.
Right.
And asthma attacks are up from the tension.
Yeah. And then those are all stress-induced conditions.
Yes.
Yeah. And because our systems are weakened, so we are more susceptible to allergic reactions, foods we eat, all the stuff that we might be able to fight off on a normal day. We're sort of overwhelmed with all of this stuff, let alone, still fighting some of the bad air from the big fires that we had, the smoke and all of that. It's just it's been an onslaught.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you, I've been giving thanks for the little bit of rain we received and the cold,
Oh yeah,
cold air. I don't know if you noticed last couple of days, but there's snow up on Mount Baldy.
yeah.
And
I
it's
saw that. It was
beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah.
So I have no excuse to not walk now. I couldn't walk for a few weeks because of that smoke. I was having serious asthma attacks, but
Hmm.
I had my first walk back yesterday or the day before, and it was just so beautiful. And I realized how much I needed to be looking up at those mountains and seeing that beauty to calm me down a little bit.
It really did. Me too. It really helped a lot just to kind of center myself, ground myself.
Yeah. And I would imagine many of the people listening to this right now are experiencing just what we're talking about.
Hmm.
Maybe in their family, there's people who can't let a sleeping dog lie and have a point to prove, and are determined to be right. Never mind what's right, just they have to be right. And when you're in that environment, again, it doesn't matter if you do it from the right or the left, because you have it on both the right and the left. Nobody could rest. You said so well with the Jason comment of
Yeah.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, you just never know when it's going to come back. And, it just kind of occurred to me, it's like all my life, especially my professional life, I've been teaching clients, whether it's couples or individuals, that the art of compromise, that to get along, it's not about who's right or who's not right. It's about compromise, because sometimes we're both right and sometimes we're both wrong. So what do we have to do to resolve it? And I haven't been hearing any on a national scale, and even with people I've known for a long time, I don't hear any effort to come to some middle ground and compromise.
Right.
And I think that's why there's this big me versus you, this big divide.
Mhm. Exactly.
So,
And I think this is the worst we've ever seen this in our lifetimes.
yeah, I know it has been for me.
And so let's talk a little bit about how do we bring the temperature down for people. And one of the things I like to throw out there is limit how much news you watch, limit how much social media you participate in, play soft or comforting music, and just sit in silence a little bit. What would you like to add to that?
Move. We were just talking about walking, especially walking in a walking in nature somewhere. It doesn't have to be the mountains, but that's a nice place to walk.
Mm-hmm.
But walking somewhere where there's some solitude, where there's some nature, where there's, obviously, when you're walking, you don't want to be listening to the news or looking at social media.
Right.
If you do have to listen to something other than nature, listen to soft, like you say, soothing music, and just decompress. I mean, the big word for me is decompress. People aren't taking time to decompress. They're living this 24 hours a day, and and there's no end to it.
Well, I found a great app that I'd like to share with the listeners. And it's a free app, and it's great for anxiety and calming down. It's called Fear Tools. FEAR, separate word, TOOLS. And it does guided meditations, soft music to get you through anxiety and fear and to be able to calm down. I started
Wow.
using it myself, and I really like it. Or Insight is another one that I found very helpful. And I only recommend ones I've used myself. I'm not saying the others aren't good, but unless I've used it myself, I don't want to throw it out there in case there's something I don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right.
And those are just some great places for
That's
not just
a great
soothing
idea.
music, but guided meditation. And you don't have to be of a particular religion to make use of that. These are generalized spirituality.
Right. and and again, whatever your belief system is your belief system.
Yes.
It's about grounding and connecting with your higher power, whatever that might be, and also connecting with each other. I've never felt people, I mean, partly some of this is due to COVID and isolation, and a lot of it's got to do with the political stuff that's going on, but I've never felt myself personally, and I've never felt people that I know to be so isolated, so disconnected, so distant
Yes.
from one another, which is, all that does is to increase anxiety, increase depression, increase substance use. We think the pandemic of COVID is bad. Wait till you see the aftermath in terms of people's mental health.
Oh, yeah. Well, on Twitter today, I had someone send me a tweet to me. I'm still getting used to those terms. Asking for a scripture that I would think is apropos to help bring the temperature down. And it was a simple one for me. I said, well, Jesus said, "They will know you're my disciples by how you love one another."
Ooh,
and
I like that one.
And I sent that out, and they clicked like on, and then they retweeted it, and their friends retweeted it. So I hope it goes beyond
As I say, you went viral, huh?
Well, not. My doctor says no, but it's
No, okay.
nothing that doesn't require a little
Not
penicillin.
quite viral. Okay.
Yeah.
Contagious, but not viral.
There you go. And I'm not trying to be clever with that. I think it's an important thing for us to get back to basics, whatever your spiritual background is. Every major religion brings it down to love and service.
Yeah.
And offering love and service to strangers. That's in everyone. Where's the Bhagavad Gita? Where's the Quran? Where's the Sanskrit? Or Christianity or Judaism? All of them are
just hit on something. I think, I know with COVID, things are really strange out there relative to the holidays in general, but I'm thinking, okay, what can people do to be of service to one another with Thanksgiving coming in a couple of weeks and Christmas coming a few weeks after that? This is a great time to recharge our spiritual batteries, and how can we all be of service to one another? If each of us thinks of one thing we can do to be of service to another person or a group of people or to a family, that I believe would really start to change the temperature.
Well, I'd like to throw out there a couple of things, if I may.
Sure.
If you're in the San Bernardino Inland Empire area, I'd like to recommend Mary's Mercy Center, run by Father Michael Berry. And they always do a Thanksgiving feed for low income and homeless. And they do a Christmas toy drive where you can also show up and give away some of the toys. Even if you're concerned with COVID, you could always buy some toys unwrapped and take them over to Mary's Mercy Center. And another organization that does so much for families, the Salvation Army.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't have to have the biggest gift in the world, but every small gift matters. And,
there's got to be programs that are going to prepare and deliver meals, which can be done very safely, just like
Yes.
they do,
Meals-
like DoorDash or but I'm saying you could deliver a meal to a needy family and socially distance, leave it at the front door, but they'll, knock on the door, and then when they come and pick it up, wave at them and say, "God bless you," or whatever. And but you've done service, and you can do that safely without worrying about COVID. And you've fed a family, you've made a difference, and you'll feel good yourself about having been of service.
Yes, sort of a Meals on Wheels type thing.
Yeah, I mean, why not? If I can't go to the meal, why can't the meal come to me?
Exactly. Because this is a season about giving. I'm going to say something that I'll probably get a note from NBC, and I'm sorry, NBC, but I'm just going to do it. One of the reasons, the commercial that's out right now that I really can't stand is the Buick commercial where they're gifting themselves. And one says, "From James to James. It's just what I wanted." And the other one says, "Is this a new Buick? Well, I Secret Santed myself." And then the other one says, "Oh, I shouldn't have. Well, I've been awfully good this year." And it's like, that's not what the holiday's about. It's about getting out of self and doing for somebody else. And
Yes.
I think as a society, we're getting away from that with all these different, make it bigger, sparklier, more grand, more grandeur.
Yeah.
And
Well, and this has been the last few years has been all about me.
mm-hmm. Look what it's got us.
And that's just where we are, And yes, there is an important aspect of self-care.
Right.
I teach my students in class, and I tell my clients, I say, that when you get on an airplane and they tell you in the safety instructions when the mask falls from the ceiling, and if you're traveling with a small child or someone who can't take care of themselves, whose mask do you put on first?
Right, you put on your own first.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You would be surprised, though, how many people go, "Oh, I put the child's on," or whatever. I go, "Well, then you'd be dead." I said, "What is the purpose behind you putting your mask on first? Isn't that selfish?" And the difference is no, because if you don't have your mask on, and you pass out, then the people that depend on you can't survive.
And
so it's not self first. It's not selfish. It's self first.
I was going to say that's the difference between proper self-orientation and selfishness. You're talking about
Exactly.
proper self-orientation. And
I always say that the people who tell me I'm selfish are usually the ones that are selfish.
Amen.
And they're using that to control me, to make me feel guilty or bad, so I keep putting them ahead of me.
Yes, absolutely. And so I agree with you. Proper self-care is a big part of this. And in addition to that, as we share with others, it increases our joy. You've heard me say probably thousands of times that love is a divine paradox. When we go out to get, we come back empty. When we go out to give, we come back overflowing. And that's authentic love. That's not codependent love. I want to make a difference between the two. Because love that holds strings to it is not love, but rather it's an attachment, and that's different.
We need to do a show on that codependency thing one of these days.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk during the break about an idea I have, but but seriously, as we get ready to go to the next commercial break, I think this is a topic that we really do need to go into of what is healthy giving and what is not healthy giving, and maybe when we come back, we can touch on that. You're listening to Viewpoint with Father John on NBC KCAA Radio, and my guest is none other than Dr. John Smith, and we'll be back in 90 seconds.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org, www.4pfp as in personalfuneralplanning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran-owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
In the Inland Empire, you know how much it means to have neighbors you can count on, like the Cookout Kings who invite you over every weekend for Burger Palooza. Well, here's another good neighbor you can count on, State Farm agent Joe Amlani. He and his team are here to help life go right when you combine your home and auto insurance, which can save you money and time. So combine home and auto and start the savings rolling. Call State Farm agent Joe Amlani, 909-894-4619 today.
And welcome back. You're tuned to KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or you can listen from anywhere in the world on kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John. I am your host, Father John Reed. And as we get Dr. Smith back on the line, because I am the slow child in working the phones, I actually hung up on him. Sorry about that, Doctor.
You can't get rid of me that easy.
Yeah, I had a stalker like that.
I know who one of them is.
Yes, you do. And we better walk away from that one pretty quickly.
She's been awful quiet lately.
We'll talk.
Yeah, okay.
Only on one side. So,
okay.
So we were talking about something when we went off air. And
the codependency, the giving, and too much. What's healthy giving versus unhealthy giving?
I'm glad only one of us has dementia. I hope you're getting treatment for that. Now can you remember the 5 words?
No. Mental status. I flunk that every time.
I do too. I hate when they ask me to draw a
Fall Tree House Disneyland.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that wasn't it.
You know, I tried to draw a stick person one time, and they came out handicapped. So, yeah. Oh boy.
People could only hear us.
Yeah, you know the letters are lining up right now. I don't know how the postman's going to carry that bag. Thank God someone come email. Oh my goodness. You know, and what we just did is something important thing, kids. Humor. If you learn to laugh at yourself, it helps. You know, in the 12-step programs, one of the things I'm very fond about them is, in Alcoholics Anonymous particularly, they have only one rule. And that rule is number 62. And rule 62 is, don't take yourself so damn serious. And in this, it's hard to remember that. And either we give everything we have and leave ourselves nothing, or we become Scrooge during the Christmas season, and, you know, we won't even give them a lump of coal, you know, for the fire. So what's a happy middle ground on that, Doctor?
Well, that's a good question. When I figure that out, I'll let you all know. I am a giver. I am a giver, and my life is about giving to others. And from that, I get a lot of reward. Mm-hmm. So it fills part of my tank. I teach my students about I call it my bucket theory. You got your bucket, and then there's everybody else's. Mm-hmm. And as you give the resources out of your bucket to everybody else's to make theirs full, of course, yours starts to run low, right?
Right.
So obviously, at some point, your bucket is going to run dry while you're still being asked and feel sort of compelled to keep giving. So at some point, if you don't start putting things back into your bucket so that you have enough to give others, then you start to run low, and that's when problems occur. right? And so the happy medium is to make sure that you've got enough coming in to offset what's going out.
Yes.
If you hold it all to yourself, your bucket is full. But yuck. Once it gets full, there's no room for anything else unless you start getting rid of stuff that's in your bucket. But if you're a giver like I am, I'm always giving from my bucket. My problem is I just have to learn how to and keep reminding myself that I have to. Input is almost as important as output.
Right. And along the output one, stagnant water becomes sick.
Mm-hmm.
It gets mold and other things that are not healthy to put within you. And at the same time, you can't drink dust, so you can't leave it empty either. So, yeah, I agree with you on that. And sometimes the glass is going to be fuller than other times.
Correct.
Because it is a matter of learning how much to pour out and how much to refill.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it has to be done perfectly.
And if that's the problem, then it'll never happen, because there is no such thing when it comes to giving and receiving. It's just a matter of being mindful enough about what is necessary. If I know that when I'm starting to run low in my bucket, I start to get tired, I start to get burned out, I start to maybe get depressed, I get irritable, impatient, snappy. Those are my internal cues and external cues that, okay, I need to do something to take care of me right now so I can refill my bucket.
Yeah, it reminds me of something that Father Tom Weston said to me when I was 18 years old. I was on retreat with him over at Manresa. God, that brings back wonderful memories.
Huh.
And, I've been doing the spiritual way of life for 4 years by then, so since I was 14.
Wow.
And been living on my own since I was 14. And so I'm on retreat with Father Tom. He's a Jesuit priest. And I said to him, Tom, I've been on my own since I was 14. I'm now 18, so I'm legally an adult, but I don't feel any different than I did before I was 18. I don't get it. What is this adult stuff all about? And Dr. Smith, he gave me the best answer I've ever heard to this day. He says, John, being an adult is finding out what your needs are and getting them met. I said, that's it? He says, that's it. Finding out what your needs are and getting them met. And, what are those needs? The need to know how to love and how to receive love. To know how to give and receive just caring. The need to know how to work, but also know how to play. To know what it is to feel good, but also know what it is to hurt. And so there's it seems like a simple answer, but there's a lot that goes into it. And what I found, and I'd be interested in your take on this, is while we have to experience these things within ourselves, we can't accomplish these things by ourselves.
Excellent. Well, yes, because it depends on the interconnectedness that we have with other people, whether they be our friends, family, or strangers, people we don't even know.
Yes.
I think it's a way of being rather than what we're doing.
Thank you. I couldn't have said it better. And I'm going to let a little cat out of the bag. That do you mind if I make a little short announcement about what we talked about on the phone?
No, please do.
When I accidentally hung up on Dr. Smith, we were talking about
accidentally,
okay,
he says.
It's real blonde hair. What do you want? It's real blonde hair. It used to be red, but the more blonde it gets, the dumber I get. So we're talking about in a few weeks, I'm probably thinking through the Christmas season might be a good time for this, that we're going to do a series of shows together that, for 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks, that he and I will each week take a subject and we'll both bounce it back and forth between us. Just to complete a series, because I think right now with everything everyone's going through, and particularly how hard holidays are, particularly for those who are going through grief, separations, fears, uncertainty, that maybe this could be a safe place where you can tune in. And even if you miss some of these, you can go and have them on YouTube. Also, you can go on the show website at kcaaradio.com and listen to the podcast version of it, the MP3 version of it. But we're going to talk over the next few days to see about this. I know next week I have some people set up. And I think the next week is Thanksgiving, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and so Thanksgiving, the radio
So
station
actually,
goes
that'd
on.
be a good, probably around the first week of December would be a good time to start this and
That's what I'm thinking.
kind of take us through the holidays and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And then we'll get married in January.
Okay.
Everyone's
I
scratching their
think
head
my
now.
wife and your wife are going to have a problem with that, but that's okay.
Well,
We'll talk about
it's a big drawer to spoon in. So it's-
it. Yeah.
And I don't know how I'm going to get out of that one. But anyhow,
I don't know. You're the
Row.
one that has to answer to the network, not me.
row. Anyhow, so
We do have fun, folks. We do have fun. So
and you know what?
hopefully you can laugh along with us.
And if you haven't laughed in a while, you know, it's something silly that we're doing right now. We invite you to join us in the joy. Don't take us too seriously on that. That's why we kid around a little bit, to let you know that it's okay to laugh. And it's okay to say something totally silly, something stupid. And anyone's there hung out around me, you've heard me say stupid things from the pulpit, you know. And part of loving each other is just realizing, okay, that's just Father John. You know,
Right.
but he's sincere and he says some dumb things sometimes. And when you're thinking about that, if you can forgive me, maybe you come to where you can forgive yourself for when you say dumb things or things that you wish you hadn't have. Because it's always easier for us to forgive other people. It's hard for us to accept that ourselves. And
Sounds like one of the topics we should probably bring up.
yeah, I was hinting at
Yeah.
that.
I know. Kind of. Gosh, I'm pretty good, huh? I picked it up.
Not bad for a white boy. You know.
That's right. Uh-oh.
You just started something new, didn't we? Anyhow, that we closed a few weeks ago. But so what are some closing thoughts you'd like to share with the listeners? We only have a few minutes left.
Well, I think if I were to kind of summarize the high points here, one was that we need to do things to lower our anxiety, our temperature, so to speak, the fight-flight response, which means, you know, the things we talked about doing was spending some time in nature, going for a walk or exercising, just spending some quiet time detached from social media and TV, going through just spending time with family and not dealing with things that are out of our control. All right, that was one, and then I think the second thing is we talked about how it's really important to make sure that we look how we can be of service to others, because that's always a spiritually uplifting experience when we are able to give and help others. Yet at the same time, we can't forget that as we give, we have to make sure that we receive or we do things to keep our own bucket full so that when we give, we aren't depleting ourselves.
Yes.
And I think those are the two things that I would highlight.
And I'd like to add to that a nutritional thing. Maybe drink a little less caffeinated beverage and have a little less sugar. And the reason I say that is the caffeine, a little caffeine's okay, but if we're pounding the caffeine, it increases our heart rate, which increases our adrenaline flow, which increases our sense of anxiety.
Yep.
And sugar is a depressant. You know, again, moderation. A little bit of sugar is not going to hurt you unless you're diabetic. I'm not giving health advice here for diabetics and stuff like that. I'm giving emotional advice. And often when we're upset, we want to eat comfort foods, ice cream and other stuff. But if we can limit that, we can have a little less depressive hangover from it. And so I just a couple suggestions for some of you out there. And my phone's saying, I don't understand. she must like sugar too. So, and I guess that makes me my phone sugar daddy. So,
Yep.
so those are some things you might keep in mind. And rest. Even if you can't go to sleep, just lay there and close your eyes. And instead of being mad at yourself because the thoughts are going by, just take notice of what the thoughts are. They're just thoughts. They have no power. And that's really what meditation is. And you might use some of these tools we talked about earlier about the fears tool.
One of the things that comes to my mind is that we always have the power to change the channel, whether that's literally on the television or the television, the show that we're watching in our head. So
Right.
if we're ruminating about certain thoughts and we can't turn our thoughts off, remember, you have the power to change the channel. You can change it to something else. You don't have to be slave to your thoughts. You aren't your thoughts. You control your thoughts, even though a lot of us don't realize we have the ability to do that.
Right. Of course, coming from my family, it's a constant rerun of Hee Haw, but it's you kids will have
I
to
bet
look
you
it
there's a
up.
lot of people that don't even know what that show was. Yeah.
It is. Well, look, we're in our last minute, and so Dr. Smith, thank you again for coming on tonight. You always bring such great information with you, and I'm forever grateful to you for that. It's a privilege to be your friend, and to have you on the show. And so, brothers and sisters, we'll let you know within a couple weeks what we're going to do. I'm going to have some exciting guests next week, female race drivers, and yeah, it'd be really nice. And so if no one's told you this week that they love you, let me be the first. And again, I thank you for tuning in once again to Viewpoint with Father John. Be safe and be good to each other. Good night.